Now, is it just me, or is everyone starving for some new Roddy music? I don't know about you, but personally, I'm beyond famished at this point. Roddy Ricch in 2021, what about him? As we're sitting here waiting for that album, I want to talk a little bit about Roddy Ricch, his placement in the industry, what do I think makes him special, and on top of that, I wanted to look back on his career a little and just have a general discussion about that as well. With that being said, Roddy Ricch. Let's talk about it. Now, Roddy Ricch might as well change the title of his last album from Please Excuse Me for Being Antisocial to Please Excuse Me for Going Ghost. I think it's fair to call him a ghost because that man is nowhere to be found. All jokes aside, Roddy Ricch is probably one of the most promising young rappers that have came up in hip-hop these last couple years. Roddy seems to be one of those rappers who a lot of people seem to naturally root for. Why is that the case? Well, number one, good music is undeniable, and Roddy has plenty of that. And number two, he's a breath of fresh air in multiple ways, one of them being the fact that he's not with the BS. Roddy is all about the music, that's just the way he operates. The way Roddy's been able to effortlessly capture the genre's attention, I think that's incredible, man. And the fact that Roddy stands out so much in a genre with so much competition says a lot about the kind of artist he is. Roddy Ricch is one of those artists who I think people were desperately waiting for. He's very much in tune with the exact type of music he makes, to the point where you can confidently say nobody can do what he does better than him. Him taking his sweet little time with that next release is a sign of the kind of approach he has to his work. And even though we're all still feeling the absence of his presence, it's hard to not appreciate that kind of dedication. Did you guys see that Instagram story he put up last week? For us to drop the album, we gotta have a no-skip policy. No-skip policy say, we'll see. An Instagram story he put up that's gotten shared around all week on social media. I think a lot of people, especially after Please Excuse Me, are very curious to hear what direction he's gonna take with the music. The anticipation is obviously having a very strong effect on people. I think that's mainly the case because Please Excuse Me made such an impact on not only Roddy's career, but hip-hop, the industry, and just music in general. Having a song that's as big as The Box as an artist, that is huge. The amount of accomplishments Roddy received as a result of this record, shit, whatever 21 said, okay? It's a lot. The Box alone has greatly contributed to hip-hop in the form of bringing in a bunch of new listeners to the genre. As you probably know, the song initially blew up on TikTok, right? And then right after that hit the Billboard charts, reached that #1 placement, and stayed there for a good 11 weeks. So the success of the song alone, major. Please Excuse Me was a great-ass project though, man. So many good songs on here, and overall, a very dope body of work. I thought this was an extremely strong debut, most definitely a step up from Feed the Streets 2, which came out in 2018. Even though that project sounded like an album, it was a mixtape, and it was great. That tape was raw as hell. The sheer amount of hunger Roddy displayed on his project was one of my favorite things about it. I actually don't think this project was crazy diverse. I think everything on here had a very specific sound, but it was extremely consistent, however, and most importantly of all, very connected. The way Roddy set himself up for that Please Excuse Me release with Feed the Streets 2 was perfect. He got the chance to build a very solid foundation going into that next phase of his career. That phase eventually approached, and Roddy became a face in the mainstream. Seeing Roddy getting all the success, man, it's one of those things that just makes sense when you see it happening. I think anyone with a set of 2 ears could predict that Roddy Ricch was gonna blow up. After hearing something like Every Season, how can you not? I think really taking your time like Roddy is with that next release scares a lot of rappers, especially in this generation. I mean, how many new albums aren't dropping every single week? As a matter of fact, how many new ones haven't dropped in the last month or the last 2 months? The output from the industry as far as music is high as a kite at the moment. So even if your name is Roddy Ricch, who's clearly thriving despite not constantly dropping, there's always that "am I taking too long?" thought that could cross one's mind. I think once you as a rapper reach a level like, let's say, Roddy's level, you can actually afford to comfortably set the tone for how quickly or how slowly you want to take things. And just think about an artist like The Weeknd. Now, The Weeknd doesn't drop every single year, does he? This conversation deserves an entire video, but to put it simply, the smartest thing The Weeknd did early on in his career, I think, was to release music on his own time. Even though The Weeknd doesn't drop every single year, he's built a pretty consistent pattern that is more than working by dropping every other year. Kissland was obviously Abel's first album that dropped in 2013, with the exception of Beauty Behind the Madness and Starboy, where he didn't take 2 full years between those two. All of his other albums he took 2 years, so that's the average. The Weeknd set the tone for the pace he was comfortable with early on. That's why his fans are always showing up for him whenever he does end up dropping, and plus, he doesn't let him down with the music. I mean, The Weeknd consistently delivers, man. What can I say? I wanted to bring up up The Weeknd and compare him to Roddy, because I see Roddy low-key taking that kind of approach with his music. Just like how The Weeknd's aura in the music industry is very mysterious, Roddy is starting to become a little bit mysterious. I think that's the case simply because he's not constantly all up in our face. So when he does pop back up, you're more inclined to hear him out. And that's just a case of scarcity creating value. That's why the concept of Frank Ocean dropping music is so enticing. We just don't get a lot of Frank Ocean music, so when he's ready to drop something, we go crazy. That aside, it's dope to see Roddy taking his time. I think the incentive as a young rapper to stay pushing out material is very high. So fighting against the industry standard, I can imagine is hard. As long as the music is good though, when it actually ends up dropping, I think makes up for all the wait and more. But yeah, the absence of Roddy Ricch. I know I'm not the only one who's beyond starving thanks to Roddy. Enough of what I have to say though. What do you have to say about this entire conversation surrounding Roddy? Are you still keeping his music on repeat? And what do you guys think about Roddy Ricch in 2021? Definitely let me know in the comment section below, and let's have a discussion about this.